Now next is about the selector, which we have seen that how you are going to use the selector into the CSS. What is the selector? So these things will make your life easier, because why we are saying that it's make your life easier, because it's easy to define any style sheet for the particular text or particular any effect. Okay, so when you're defining the CSS rule, what you need to use a selector. What will happen? The selector will tell to the browser that which element will be affected. As we have seen in previously the example, we have created the selector h1. When you open the particular page, h1 will tell that yes, h1 is going to affect the text which has defined there. So this is the meaning of that. CSS selector will allow you to select. What it will allow you to select? Individual elements. You can select the individual elements. You can select multiple HTML elements also. You can select the element that belongs together in the some way. Whatever the some combined text is there, combined element is there. If you want to affect, that means use the CSS, that also you can use with the CSS selector. The elements that are positioned in specific ways in the document hierarchy. If you are making any document hierarchy, you want to define certain element on that, then also you can use the selector. And there are number of different different selector types we have, different approach we can use into the CSS. So the first one is you have element selector. What is the element selector? That means element selector is nothing. Select all instance of given HTML element. When you want to select all the instance whichever defined in HTML element, then you are going to use element selector. Here example, the page which we are using, that is the cs1s.html. Now what you have to do, if you want to use the element selector, you are going to use the HTML element name. First you have to use HTML element name. The moment you define the element name, then you can select all the element by using universal element selector. You are going to use here universal element selector, that is nothing, it's your asterisk symbol, star symbol character. So the moment you define with the star symbol character, that means it says that it is the universal element selector. And you have seen that previously we have defined declaration, the selector we have used, the properties and value, and the rule we have defined. And example we have defined here with the selector em, and properties values are color and red. The next, group selector. What is the group selector? That means selecting multiple things. You have to select multiple things. Example here, see with the example, you have on your HTML page, you have multiple tags like paragraph tag, you have division tag, you have aside tag. Okay, now you want all this margin will be 0 and padding should be 0. Then what happen? At a time in multiple things, that means your page, division and aside, you can define with the margin is equal to 0. Next, if you want separately, then how you can define? You can define also separately. How it is there? Same way, paragraph, that is selector, then opening brace, then use margin is equal to 0, properties and value, again properties and value, similar way, then close the semi, that is the brace, closing brace, then again division, then aside, and that's all. So this is the one you can use here. This one what you are seeing, the first example, that you got, this is the example of your group selector, and this is the your single select group selector. Both are equivalent here, both are same way, but the thing is that you are reducing the number of lines of code in your HTML page, and this is the very best way to use in any HTML CSS. You can select group of element by separating the different element name which we have defined here. Different element name is there and we have used here. Okay, this is sensible way to reduce the size. As I mentioned, you can reduce the size because you are reducing the number of lines. You can see here, if you see this first example, how many lines of code you are using? 1, 2, 3, 4. And within 4 line of code we are finishing. The same example we are using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we are using here 15 lines. Obviously the group selector will give you the lesser size of your page. It will reduce the page size. Okay, it will reduce the complexity of your CSS file also. And by combining all multiple rule, the single rule is the best, because you can easily find out, easily change it whenever you need to change the margin and padding. That is your group selector. Next is something called as reset. You want to reset. Okay, you can see with the example how I have used here. What I am using here, the example is we are using here HTML. Then this all are selector. What are the selector we have used? HTML. When you want multiple selector to use, then you have to follow with the comma, which I have said in previous presentation. And here HTML, comma, body tag, comma, division, span, h1, h2, h3, h4, h5, h6, paragraph. What we want here? Margin will be 0, padding will be 0, border will be 0, font size will be 100%, vertical alignment, that is the baseline. Okay, you can change this, generally what you would define. Then group selector are often used a way to quickly reset or remove browser default. Why we have used here? You have seen in the first example when we have used without any CSS, by default browsers define the font size, right? We never define. You have to reset. If you want to reset the CSS, then you define this code. The moment you define the code, it will remove the, when you want to it's called as reset, or you say that remove the browser default feature in the browser, then you use this code, automatically it will get changed and it will define this CSS style on your element. The goal of doing this, that means resetting, it will reduce your browser inconsistencies with things such as margin, line height, which you have used, and the font size. Okay, you can use this and it will reduce your browser inconsistency, because in browser by default they support default font size, default font properties. You have seen that in previous example, when you use the paragraph, by default some font size will come and some font element, font face will be there. Now we have to reset. I don't want the browser style should appear on my HTML document. I want my own HTML font size, font face, the vertical alignment, margin, padding. Then you can use this way. So that's why it is called as reset. The reset style can be placed in your own CSS file, perhaps called reset.css. You can use a separate file called reset.css and link to the page how you have used as external style sheet, like embedding with the link tag. You can define this reset CSS in your HTML document.